Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you back to another bookish conversation with a children's literature author. Today I'm talking with Abigail Hing Wen. Abigail is the New York Times bestselling author of multiple novels for young people, including Love Boat Taipei, which has also been adapted as a movie on Netflix. She's here today to talk about her newest middle grade debut novel, The Vale, a futuristic adventure rooted in Abigail's deep experience in the tech world. It features a boy who creates a fully immersive AI-generated VR world to escape reality and explores the ethics of artificial intelligence through a wildly imaginative lens. I can't wait to talk about the book along with these real-world connections I know we are facing today with her, so let's get right to the episode. Abigail, welcome to KidLit Love. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Me too. So I just previewed a bit in the introduction, a little bit about your work, but you're an author, you're a film producer, you've been a tech exec. I would love for you to introduce yourself to listeners and give us a bit of your background and your journey through children's literature.
Thank you again for the questions and for having me on your podcast. So I have been writing for, gosh, it's been like 17, 18 years now. It took me 10 years to break into the industry, so there was never any overnight success here. I buried 5 novels along the way. And during that time when I had to shelve these novels, I had a career because I needed to make money to make a living. And so I worked as a lawyer in venture capital and in technology in Silicon Valley. And that was really fun because I got to see all the cool new technologies coming through and being incubated. And that's actually where the genesis of The Vale is, which is my new novel, out September 16th. And it's a story about a boy who creates an AI generated virtual fantasy world. And so the inspiration for that was actually drawn from that work experience that I needed to get in lieu of having that book deal. So in retrospect, I'm glad that I had this very strange path towards publication because it's given me a lot of fodder and a lot of stories to tell.
So tell us a little bit before we jump into The Veil, tell us a bit about your other book and all the things around that book too. You've got some stuff going on.
So my very first novel to publish, which was actually the sixth novel that I wrote, Love Boat Taipei, is about a girl who goes from Ohio to Taipei to learn language and culture, ostensibly, but she finds out she's on this summer free-for-all where the kids are sneaking out clubbing and drinking snake blood sake and having the time of their life. But in the process, they actually do learn language and culture. It's a way of overseas Asian American youth and Asian European youth to reconnect with their heritage back home in the kind of the mother country where their folks came from. Um, and it was actually based on a real program that I attended as a youth myself. I was invited by the Taiwanese government, and I had no idea that this program was secretly nicknamed Love Boat by all the students who went, not by the program officials, of course. So that became a trilogy. It's now a trilogy out in the world, trilogy of books. It's been published in multiple languages, and the movie Love in Taipei came out on Netflix worldwide. So it's been an exciting time.
Wow. So you may have shelved 5 novels, but the sixth one, it's doing everything.
That's the one that broke out and my first publishing deal, and then my first movie deal. So I learned how to make a movie from start to finish, and now I'm doing more, which has been really fun.
Wow. Wow. So yes, it's almost like a journey that was meant to be, right? To get there, to have this, you might say, you can't say overnight success, as you said, but certainly well worth the wait and the hard work to have it just enter the world like that. That's so exciting.
It's been a good time, and it does strangely feel like it's meant to be. All the past lives I've had have consolidated into what I'm doing today. So even making movies is my three past lives. It's finance, it's technology, and it's storytelling. So all of it comes together in a way that's really deeply rewarding.
Oh, that's wonderful. So we're going to talk about The Vale today, which is your middle grade debut. And it is such a timely book, even though you did not, write it now. Like there's a beautiful author's note that kind of gives some background about that. Um, I'd love for you to tell listeners a bit about The Veil, and maybe going in a little bit more depth into that inspiration behind it.
The Veil I actually wrote 10 years ago. It was I was working in the heart of Silicon Valley and seeing all this amazing AI technology being incubated. Amazing, but also mixed. It was multiple use. Like lip reading technology was intended for the hearing impaired, but it could be used for espionage. And so all these powerful tools were just kind of coming out into the world. Nobody was looking at them. Nobody's paying attention in outside of Silicon Valley. And I wanted to democratize access to this work and to just let people know what that was about. And so I had this idea for this fantasy story. And so that's how The Veil was born. It's about, as I mentioned, this inventor family creates an AI system. It's an AI game world where our boy Bran can build a fantasy world like Narnia. And basically, every time he puts on the helmet, he's stepping in his own personal fantasy realm. And he has a village of elves and a blue forest and a clover fields. And every day he's in there building his castle and planting his gardens and basically building his own paradise. And that was the original title, The Boy Who Built Paradise. Because it was too early for its time, it was about AI generation. My agent at the time, you know, just was like, "What is this? I don't know what this is." And so I had to shelve it for 10 years. And that was actually the last book I had to shelve before I wrote Love Boat Taipei. So in some ways, I think I love this book even more than the Love Boat Taipei series, because it was like an earlier baby.
Wow. So one thing that I love about the book, is that even though Bran is the one who is fully immersing himself in his VR reality, as a reader, I just felt like I was there with him. I was imagining those beautiful colors. I was imagining the mushrooms. I was imagining so many of the things. Your language just really does fully immerse the reader in that experience. And I felt like I put on the gear every time that I entered that world. I'd love for you to talk about the format because there's two things here that are really wonderful for the reader. One is the format of the back and forth in terms of the chapters inside the world, outside of the world, the font changes, the narrator changes, which is so wonderful. But then you also have these beautiful illustrations that add to this immersive experience. So I'd love if you could talk about both of those things because they're such beautiful additions for the reader.
Yeah, this is such a strange project in the way it's just grown in so many different directions. So originally when I wrote it, I intended just to have two colored fonts, and that was the way I was going to distinguish these two worlds that you mentioned. So there's the live action real world, which takes place in Bran's world, and then there's the world of the Vale that's described in what's called the Book of Elf. And really that was the only thing I had to distinguish it on my Word document. Black ink for the live action and blue ink for the real world. But then when I started to think about publishing, it turns out publishing in multiple fonts and multiple font colors, sorry, is actually pretty expensive. And I was thinking about doing it as a graphic novel too. That was like one iteration of, well, maybe we could go between the live action, regular prose, and then a graphic novel that was The World of the Veil. But it turns out graphic novels take forever, and this book, at the time I started talking about it again, had become timely, and I didn't want to miss that window after sitting on it for 10 years. So we ended up with this halfway point, which I'm actually really, really happy with. It goes back and forth still between live action and the Book of Elf, but instead of graphic novels, we have over 40 illustrations. So some of them are like the chapter headers for each of the Book of Elf chapters, and that helps to distinguish that visually from the live action. There's also a border along the edges of the Book of Elf, so you can tell like it's a book within a book. And and then there are these full colored images at the beginning and the end of the book that depict Bran. in the helmet as well as Bran in the Vale, like,
Mm.
without the helmet, so you can kind of see the side-by-side comparison of what that looks like. And then, of course, there's an ending that I won't spoil that is revealed in the final images too.
Yeah.
So, and then there's a bunch of full black and white spreads throughout that I think just kind of highlight some of my favorite scenes. And I'm so excited. It was such a wonderful collaboration with not just my illustrators, Brandon Wu and Yuna Chong, but also the short film that we made alongside it. And the short film ended up informing a lot of the illustrations that we put into the book.
Yes, tell us more about that. I want to know more.
So the short film actually started before I had the book deal. And it's a wonderful team. So Leia Salonga, who was my girlhood hero, she plays our mother roboticist, the mother of Bran, who's one of the inventors. And I had this amazing team of animation folks that came on board, including John Aushima, who is the Emmy and Annie nominated director for Ultraman Rising. And I have wonderful talent from that's done work for Pixar and Cartoon Network and Disney TVA, Warner Brothers, Netflix. I'm probably missing some on DreamWorks. And so it was just wonderful to work with such an incredible team of talent. And we ended up filming the live action over about 3, 4 days. And then we stitched it together with storyboards on the animation side that John made. And then from there, we've been working on the animation ever since. And seeing the Vale come to life like this has been the most rewarding experience ever. It's like incredible to see it all just coming to life real time, even as the book is launching, which has made this a really special launch. We're now having private screenings around the country, a book tour, and then we'll be looking at the film festival circuit next.
Wow. It literally, so when I say it was an immersive experience for me as a reader, it's literally going to be an immersive experience for everybody who has
Yeah,
a chance with that. That is so exciting. Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, and actually didn't even mention there's a Roblox game now. So that just beta launched.
Wow.
And that's a way for readers to just play around in the world of the Veil. You have to solve each level to unlock the next world. So hopefully that's motivation to get through some of the very difficult challenges that my team built into it.
Oh, wow. So that may get me back on the video games because I want to be in there. I want to see that. Wow. So far we've kind of stressed the AI component, the VR component, this very immersive experience in the format. But I do want to talk about the characters because they are just wonderful individual characters. You have Bran, who is neurodiverse and loves to escape in the Val. You have Piper, who is this fun hacker. You've got Mom as this brilliant roboticist. Dad is also, very special in his own way, but you just have this beautiful team of characters. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that for the people, that might come to the book because of the AI and the VR and this escapism reality, but then who also love coming for the threads of friendship and family and the character-driven stories because there's both here. So please say more about that.
Oh, well, yeah, thank you for loving the Lee family. They are such a fun family to work with. They're quirky, they are shy, they're not great in public places. They really rather just be home together, working on their cool inventions together, and that's really their comfort zone. And that's part of their growth too as a family. They're brilliant. They've created incredible works. Like they have robots that run around that are basically family members with them, and they've created this world of the Vale. But because they have such a hard time functioning in the real world, that actually ends up coming back to bite them, and that's something that's part of their journey of learning to live in the real world. But yeah, I had a good time just thinking through like their dynamics. So mom and dad actually they love each other deeply, and in a strange way, because they love each other so much, that's actually made Bran feel left out in some ways. And that's why he wanted a sibling so badly as a child, because his mom and dad were always having these amazing conversations about the frontier of artificial intelligence and all these like cool esoteric things they love to geek out about together. And Bran wasn't really part of that initially. So that's why the Vale was so important to him, because it normally the elf in the Vale is a surrogate little brother. And again, that's part of his journey too, to learn to find other friends and also to connect with his parents more. And then Piper, I'm glad you mentioned her. She's also a favorite of mine. Um, she's a friend in the real world, someone that he meets very early on and is somewhat intimidated by her. She seems like way out of his league. Finds out she's a billionaire's daughter, and she is brilliant. She solves like Rubik's cubes. She's a hacker. And he actually, as he's building his veil, he starts to think about ways that he can make her laugh. And he spends a lot of time on her social media thinking and like looking at her pictures and the way she sees the world. And it is really fun to kind of build that very innocent, youthful friendship between a kid who really doesn't know how to talk to anybody and this girl who's just such a bright go-getter um, and who loves beautiful things and really loves what Bran is doing.
Yeah, that's part of, I think, the immersive experience for me as well. In addition to the format and the images, it's this story about AI and VR, but then also layered is this rich story about friendship and family. And we didn't mention Uncle Roy, and we won't mention too much about Uncle Roy, but there's also, there's some undercurrents and some things going on across the story that just you're hooking the reader at every turn.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. You're one of the first to have read it, so to read it and to talk with me about it. So it's really fun to hear your feedback.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Now, as you think of it launching out into the world very, very soon, what is your hope for the book or for your hope for readers who have the chance to read it?
Yeah, well, I think the main reason I wrote it was to really just let readers understand, like, how does this powerful technology work, but in a fun way. So my hope is that a reader who reads through it will actually intuitively understand how does AI generation work, because the Veil trains on familiar stories like the Brothers Grimm. There's a bunch of Easter eggs that I think will be fun for the readers to find. Brothers Grimm, Magic Paintbrush, which is a Chinese story of like everything you paint comes to life. Um, and you'll see how these stories kind of get mixed and mashed and comes out in different new ways. And that's how AI generation works when it's trained on data. And so I think that's one element is just, you know, equipping my readers to navigate this future that we live in, that is it's here to stay. And it's really important, I think, for all of us to be equipped to know how this works and what are the dangers as well, some of the pitfalls that can rise. Um, but also, like, I want readers to fall in love with the Vale, with Gnomely, with the Village of Elves, with this world. I would love for them to come watch the short film wherever they can find it, to play the Roblox game, and we're hoping to get to a feature film in the way we did with Love Boat Taipei. And so I think just spreading the word for the book. And kind of one of the comps for me is like Winnie the Pooh. Like I think of this as like Winnie the Pooh in the Hundred Acre Woods. It's Bran and his veil and Gnomely in his endless world, really, that it can be built out in so many different ways. And then I would love for readers to start to tell me like what would they want to build in their veil,
Mm.
because that's really what the power of this technology is. It's built by your own imagination, and I would love to see what readers dream of.
Yeah, they're going to feel the power of the veil for sure. For sure. I mean, this 40-something-year-old was in the veil. So I imagine kids are going to just hop right in there. And I love how you ended at that it's an opportunity to think about what you would want or what you would do or what your role is. And that's what really great books do, right? Is they're portals, literal portals for ourselves to think differently and be differently and just think about the future differently. And your book definitely does all of those things. I just loved it. And I'm so grateful that I am part of your launch for it.
Oh yeah, well, thank you. I'm grateful too.
So, where is the best place that listeners can find you online to keep up with the screenings, the release, maybe a movie, Roblox, all the places? Tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. The best place is through my newsletter because social media only reaches 10% of the people following me.
Yeah.
So sign up for my newsletter at my website, which is just my name, abigailhingwen.com. And that's where I actually send out information about private screenings and so forth. So for sure, sign up. We have tours all through September. I'm hitting up San Francisco, Los Angeles, Austin, Washington, D.C., New York. I'll be in Brooklyn. I'm at the Brooklyn Public Library, Princeton Public Library. And then I know we have other ones coming up at Boston, Tucson, and Chicago and Ohio that are all in the works. So I'm sure there'll be more. So definitely sign up for the newsletter and then do follow along on social media and share with me what you guys are up to. I'd love to hear, your thoughts and your reactions. And again, what you would dream of for your veils.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I wish you so much luck in all of the wonderful busyness that is to come.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you. And listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of KidLit Love. Thanks for listening.